Thank you for joining us today for the Conformed to Christ podcast, where we seek to engage the mind, affect the heart, and call people to follow Christ. My name is George Mays, and here with me, as always, is Jay Jones.
Hello. It's Free for All Friday.
It is Free for All Friday.
How's it going?
This week has flown by.
Yeah.
I don't know if it has for you, but it has for me.
Are you running out of time for sermon prep?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely.
Sometimes it sneaks up on you like that.
Yeah.
Well, George, I will be spending the summer researching my next sermon series or book.
Yeah.
And I've been tempted greatly with Ecclesiastes. Part of it's the challenge,
Yeah.
Who's ever preached through Ecclesiastes?
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone ever actually done it? Don't know.
Have you looked to see if anyone's preached through it? Has MacArthur preached through Ecclesiastes?
Definitely not.
Okay.
None of the, I think Alistair Begg has preached some sermons in it.
Okay.
I found some, so that may be helpful.
Yeah.
But I've ordered some books, but,
It's really frustrating when you are preaching through a book and you want to hear some other guys preach it and they haven't preached it.
yeah.
I ran into that when I was doing Judges.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'd really like to hear somebody how they're interpreting and presenting this text, and none of the guys that you go to had preached through it.
The biggest challenge for preaching a book is getting a good outline.
Right.
You want your outline to emerge from the passage. That's easy with like Paul's letters or other epistles.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say easier, more difficult with narrative.
Yeah.
Challenging can be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the Psalms are easier too. There's clear. Ecclesiastes is next level. So Alistair Begg, I heard him preaching a sermon in the beginning of Ecclesiastes, and he said in his research, and I don't remember who he's quoting, some guy wrote a commentary. He said, "There is no logic or outline for Ecclesiastes, and any attempt is futile." Very encouraging.
Yeah. I may have something that might be able to help you.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and look.
The challenge is, if you're making like a commentary, you can write chapters, whatever, you can work through it. But to give like, hey, here is something for you, the people,
right,
that you can wrap your head around and grasp it and take it home with you.
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
Right.
So, but
right.
I feel like I have to do it now. I feel obligated.
Do you?
Because because here's this book. It's in here. I've never heard, anyone ever preach through it.
Isn't that isn't that the temptation? Like, you want to preach something that you've never heard preached before. That was one of the reasons I wanted to do Judges.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever heard a sermon series on Judges?
No.
I think when I looked at MacArthur's list of sermons, he's done a couple out of Judges, but never the whole book. Yeah, there's something tempting about wanting to preach through a book that you've never heard preached before.
Yeah. So can I show you something?
Yeah.
Since you just brought it up, MacArthur.
Uh-huh.
Can you flip over to the thing? I found this morning. Here's what some guy tweets. This Brent Hobbs. I don't know who this guy is. Church financial admin just asked me why these MacArthur books are in the trash can this morning. Mm-hmm. And he has to tweet a video of himself throwing away a MacArthur study Bible.
Yeah.
What world are we living in here, George? Why don't you take that Bible and give it to somebody that doesn't have a Bible?
So there's new that.
What is this about?
What is her name? What's the name of the?
I don't know.
Let me find it real quick. There's there was allegations against MacArthur, covering up Julie Roy's.
Right. Yeah, how he handled the church discipline case.
Covering church discipline and a wife that I guess she was being abused by her husband.
Well, a lot of this information came out, I think, after.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But she wrote about that, right?
Right.
Well, 2 days ago, she put out another article that says MacArthur covered up pastor sexual abuse.
Really?
And she's got an article about it, and so that's probably in response
Oh, you think so?
to that. Yes.
Huh. Never even heard of it.
Yeah.
Any factual information given?
Well, so a couple of thoughts, because people are probably going to run into this stuff. I know I had a friend on Facebook that was posting all the Julie Royce stuff a month ago.
Right.
Julie Royce obviously has a beef against MacArthur. Like it's
Obvious.
it's not even veiled. Like she has disdain for MacArthur. I don't know if it's his theology. I don't know. Two, don't immediately dismiss something, even if it's an allegation against, a favorite pastor. Don't immediately dismiss it. But don't automatically believe everything that's written, because there's a lot of shenanigans that's going on in Big Eva.
Oh yeah.
Right now, and stuff like this is being weaponized.
Yeah.
Against pastors. There's stuff in the SBC right now that is coming to light that is just horrendous.
Oh yeah.
Using someone who had been abused in the past to essentially blackmail a pastor against speaking out against some of the woke stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
So I don't want to immediately dismiss it just because I like MacArthur. I don't know. But I also know that Julie Royce is not unbiased, and I don't want to believe her just because she wrote something.
Yeah.
One thing I wasn't there. I don't have all the information. Julie Royce doesn't have all the information. I mean, there's stuff that came out about the last story about the church discipline case that there were obvious things that were left out of the story.
Well, one of the things I think that's clear is that they're not going to tell you, like, if anything was given under what's the term?
Well, privacy.
In confidence.
Yeah, in confidence.
You know, like
right.
You go to your lawyer, you don't expect your lawyer's going to
right.
blab. And so even if what they say could defend themselves,
right,
they don't say it because that would mean they're breaching somebody's trust and confidence.
Right.
So I think they'd rather be defamed, which, as again, not dismissing it outright, but just looking at the pattern of the past of how these things have played out in the past. He'd rather be defamed than to break someone's trust.
Yeah, I mean, MacArthur has he has a good enough track record that we shouldn't just immediately believe all these allegations against him.
Right.
Right. I think that it comes back to Proverbs chapter 18, verse 13. If one gives an answer before he hears, it is his folly and shame. It goes on to say, the one who states his case first seems right until the other comes and examines him. And I think that applies doubly for stuff online. Like, we're not there. We don't have all the information. Even if you read a detailed article from Julie Royce, don't assume that she has all the information. So we got to be really careful and not just immediately jump to judgment on either side. Because we simply don't have all the facts.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I got one more thing for you. Just a little change. It'll change it up in here. We need to lighten it up a little bit for a second. Okay. This is Twitter.
That scares me every time you say something like that, Jay. It causes me to have a little bit of trepidation.
Well, let me introduce you to the baseball Twitter world.
Okay.
Where you can go and you can unburden yourself, George.
Okay.
I know Twitter is a place where, in the religious world, it's pretty toxic, but you might find refuge in baseball Twitter.
Well, one of the tweets I saw when Elon Musk was making that bid to buy Twitter was, I hope that he throws it into. He has the courage to throw it into the fires of Mount Doom from whence it came.
All right. So let me set this up for you.
Okay.
Before we show this video. So baseball's changing, George. It used to be, so one of the big things that's changing is home run celebrations.
Okay.
Now, I think that the reason this changed is because baseball, now professional baseball, has a lot of players from Latin America, so Dominican, Venezuela, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And they're real colorful. Like their personalities,
Right.
they're colorful. They're I hate to say it, but sometimes us white folks are a little bit, well, not colorful, right? We've got our ways of doing things. So when I came up,
Your ancestors who drank out of the skulls of their conquered enemies would be really ashamed of how reserved that you become, Jay.
We've become tamed. We've been tamed. So we're dignified now, apparently, and that went into baseball somehow on a bunch of unwritten rules.
Okay.
One of which was you don't celebrate home runs. They call it pimping home runs. So you don't you don't hit your home run and flip your bat up in the air and beat your chest and and whatever.
Can I tell you that one of the worst memories I have of Major League Baseball is when Bautista did that bat flip when he hit that home run?
Well, that was just the beginning, bud.
I hated that.
Okay.
That still makes me just dislike Bautista.
So when I was coming up, and Pujols was my teammate. This guy hit a home run like every other at bat.
Yeah. Where is he? Not he's 19 away from.
Yeah. He's going to do it this year. He'll make 700. But Dave Bingham used to tell us, act like you hit a home run before. Now, he wasn't saying it to him because he hit one every other bat, but you're going to hit one and then trot around the bases slowly. Mm-hmm. Like our coach said, that's showing up the pitcher. You already showed him up by hitting a home run, so get around the bases. So just get around the bases, act like you hit a home run before. Okay. Well, now, I kind of like some of the celebrations they do. It kind of makes it fun, in my opinion. Some of it goes too far. What I don't like is directly addressing the other team when people do that. Like if you want to flip your bat, look at your team and be like, and your team's going crazy for you. But don't turn to the other team and be like, whatever.
Do you want some end zone celebrations?
Yeah, slapping your chest, like doing whatever. You just hit a nuke.
You have to do a dance when you cross home plate.
So you just hit a nuke off the pitcher. You don't need to talk to him. You don't need to talk to their team. Yeah. I present to you JUCO baseball.
Okay.
George, I knew this was going to come because I told Drake, I said, dude, it would bother me if some of the stuff people do with their bat flips, they get ridiculous. But if you start talking to me or my team, like I'm going to ear hold the next 3 batters. And the coach is going to have to take me out of the game. I'm going to, like Nolan Ryan would regulate it, right? But people are like, you're just old school. That's stupid. All right. But I knew this was going to happen because it was getting out of control. Now, this is North Texas College. JUCO versus, what is it? The name will be given here in a second.
Okay.
You ready for this, buddy?
Sure.
All right.
That's it.
Guys hits a home run. He's rounding third base. All right. Where's the volume? Is there no volume?
Technology.
Oh, come on.
Come on. We are professionals.
All right, you got to switch over. I got to get you volume for this.
Okay. We have to listen to it?
Oh, yeah. Okay. You got to hear the announcer.
Okay. Okay. All right. Did you...
if it doesn't go this time, then I don't know. There we go.
Okay. Oh, my goodness.
Okay, here he comes, around third.
Okay.
Taking the lead here in game 1.
All right. Oh, man.
Oh, no.
So if you're listening and you don't have you're gonna have to go online and just watch this. Guy's coming around third. Pitcher throws the glove down.
Yeah.
Sprints as fast as he can. Turns into the greatest NFL linebacker you've ever seen, and knocks a dude out of his cleats.
Right.
The comments are like, immediately lost scholarship and gained a full ride for middle linebacker. Let me let you watch it again. It's an impressive hit.
It is. Oh, yeah.
1.
Oh, man.
Oh, my. Oh, no.
That is quite the hit.
That was out of nowhere.
Here, the best part is he actually gets up and crosses the plate. Watch.
Woodward.
He recovers. Here he comes.
Attacking the.
Here he comes.
Sorry, Phillips right there.
Look, kisses the hands, points to the sky.
Yeah. Wow.
Everybody is talking about this thing today, man.
Really?
Oh yeah. It went viral in baseball world, big time. It was coming eventually. Like I've known this is gonna happen. Like the coaches have got to reel it in. Apparently, he said something to the pitcher, like cussed at him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't see if he did a bat flip or whatever, but that's where I say if you want a bat flip, get your team hyped, jump around. All right, I'm down. Don't talk to the other team.
Well,
this isn't basketball.
You might get laid out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, we don't have regulators in the game like we used to because the game's changed. Like Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens, they regulate. Like you step too close to the plate, Nolan Ryan might buzz your nose. It's just the game is different now. So there you go, George. Times are changing. Times they are changing.
Yeah, that was an impressive hit. That was.
It was. That guy was a former football player. Had to be.
That was a Waterboy hit.
Yeah.
Remember watching the Waterboy?
Oh yeah, that was somebody's comment.
Really?
Somebody commented and say he said something bad about Bobby Boucher's mama.
Yeah.
All right, that was my surprise for you this morning.
Well, that was good. That was good. I've got a video here that's not. It's unbelievable in its ridiculousness, but it's not really funny. It's really just. It's kind of. I mean, it's blasphemous, but it's also showing kind of where the woke nonsense is. I mean, this is where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Right. So this is an interview that was done. I can't remember. It was on MSNBC because, of course, it was. This was a former advisor to Bush and Cheney, and I'm trying to remember his name. Matthew Dowd. And he and some other some guests are being interviewed on MSNBC, and well, let's just hear what he had to say here. Let me start it back here. All right, let's listen to what Michael Dowd has to say.
Are we gonna get this? This is gonna get tagged. Maybe we'll see. YouTube's gonna be like, edit this out.
Yeah, that's right.
This is not your program.
All right.
Over the Easter holidays. And the Easter holidays, the entire message of the Gospels of the Easter holidays was love one another. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If Jesus Christ was alive today, he would be called a groomer.
There you go.
He would be called woke, and he would be called a socialist if he was alive today. If he was speaking the message,
and you got this lady over here on the right. She's just nodding no. And she's like, oh yeah,
but she's doing it in an intelligent nod.
Okay,
because you have to make the eyes and the head so that they can
practicing.
See you are intellectual. You too understand the true meaning of Jesus.
Right.
You've studied.
So Jesus would be called a groomer, and this guy just says it without any.
Is the message of Easter to love one another?
Well, he keeps going. You want to hear? Yeah. You want to hear a little bit more of his understanding?
A groomer, a socialist, and what else?
Woke.
And woke.
Yeah. The message of Easter is love. Oh, let's let him finish. There's only about 30 seconds left. Let's let him finish.
Gospels today about treating everybody with dignity. Jesus Christ hung around with prostitutes and tax collectors. He was nailed to a cross because he spoke on behalf of the most marginalized people in the Middle East.
All right, hold on to that. Hold on to that.
Wait, George, I gotta say it. I haven't said it on here, and it kind of annoys me when people do this. Like, tell me you love me without telling me you love me. Hey, here's what. Tell me you don't know anything about the Bible without telling me you don't know anything about the Bible. And then you can put that as Exhibit A.
Right. Okay. We're almost done. Let's hold on to that just for a second. All right.
And the idea that certain segment of our population has tried to capture the faith and corrupt a message that I may have been a follower of since I was baptized and was confirmed and served on the altar in the course of this is something I think all of us, it's not just people of faith, but all.
All right, it cuts off. He doesn't finish his thought there. He's really aggravated that there's a certain segment of the population that is distorting the message of Christianity.
So stupid.
Of Christianity, that he's been raised. I'm assuming that he's Catholic. He's talking about being baptized and confirmed and serving at the altar. I'm assuming Catholic. But I think it's ironic that he's so upset that there's a certain segment of people in America that are distorting the message of the gospel, Jay.
Right.
And you know who he's talking about.
Right, of course.
He's talking about us.
Yeah.
Because if we really preached the message of Christianity, if we really preached the message of the gospel, then Jesus would be called a groomer, woke, and a socialist.
Uh-huh.
And he was crucified because
He spoke on behalf of the
most marginalized of the Middle East. And look, Jesus hung out with prostitutes and tax collectors.
Right. Yeah, it's insane. It's like I said, tell me you don't know anything about the Bible without telling me you don't know anything about the Bible. Jesus wasn't crucified for speaking out on behalf of the marginalized. Jesus was crucified for claiming to be God.
Right. That's the reason why he was crucified.
And they got the message, and they knew the message.
Uh-huh.
Not only, well, I won't just say he was crucified merely for claiming to be God. If you want to get inside the perspective of those who participated in the crucifixion, the Jewish leaders,
And they were he was challenging their power.
He's a threat to their power, because, and this gets to the heart of how evil the humanity is. I believe they probably thought that he could be the Messiah after he raised Lazarus from the dead, which is why they said we got to kill Lazarus too.
Right.
Like they knew he did miracles. At one point, they attributed his working of miracles to demons. But eventually, I think they began to connect the dots. And I think what happened was they realized they'd rather kill the Messiah than lose power.
Right.
I think is what it comes down to.
Right.
Because after Lazarus is raised from the dead, like that's something to where, I mean, it was done in the proximity of the city. Large portions of the population were testifying to the truth and validity of it. Even some among their own group had started to become secret disciples of Jesus.
Right.
Like the walls are closing in. They use a blasphemy charge as the reason to do it. Now, you know, they were not believing in the way that we would say we would believe that Jesus is the Messiah. But I still think that was there. Could he be? Maybe. And this is a big threat.
Yeah.
And then they also thought if he is the Messiah, Rome is going to just totally destroy us.
Right.
Rome's going to react and decimate, which they end up sealing their own fate when they crucified Jesus.
Yeah,
this is the irony of the whole thing.
It is just really twisted that they would believe that a Messiah was coming, and when he comes, they say we've got to kill him because they're not believing the promises of God.
They're not believing God.
They're not believing God.
Better for him to die.
They're still religious, so they're still religious. They still believe that a Messiah is supposed to come. But when he actually comes, they fulfill the prophecies about him in their unbelief. The
other part of it is the hatred. Well, him showing himself truly to be God. That's the other part that they couldn't handle. Because they didn't believe the Old Testament, and this is what Jesus tells them. If you believed Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote of me.
Yeah.
So when he came and with evidence and proof showed himself to be who he was, God in the flesh, they couldn't accept that either. And so he had to die for that.
Yeah.
So not that kind of Messiah.
Right.
They didn't want the kind of Messiah God was going to give them. They wanted a different kind.
So what stuck out to me and why I watched that video in the first place was that the headline was, this guy says that Jesus would be called a groomer. Because it's taking a swipe at conservatives because the word groomer is being used a lot lately.
Right.
Related to it's all centered on the Florida bill that we talked about a couple of weeks ago,
Right.
the parental rights bill,
Right.
because you've got teachers in the public schools that are mad, they're leaving, they're moving out of the state, and the conservatives are saying, well, they're groomers. Like
Yeah.
anyone that wants to teach a kindergartner about gender identity and sexual orientation is a groomer.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to be a little bit tighter on our definition of groomer and not just throw it around everywhere or it will lose its meaning. But there are definitely people in the public schools that they are just hell-bent on talking about their sexual orientation and trying to push this stuff with kids, and there's a reason I think that they're doing it. They're trying to win the kids over to this stuff, and I think that is that falls under the umbrella of groomer. I think
so. The groomer has obviously powerful rhetorical effect, and I've used it before.
Yeah.
Because it captures an idea. Now, while the left is offended, is they say we don't want to have sex with children. We're not groomers. So they're using it in that more narrow definition,
right?
Where you would say, where they would say a groomer is somebody who engages in manipulative behavior, maybe even over a period of time, or uses different power structures to influence in a way where they could prepare a young person,
right?
And they say we're not doing that. We don't want to do that, you know. And so they're,
right.
And so back and forth they go, but the rhetorical effect is there, and it's clear what they're doing is they are recruiting people into their ideology.
Right.
Whether they want to have sex with them when they're kids or whether they want to when they're in their 20s, they are recruiting them to a perverse ideology.
Right. It's the only way that this movement can reproduce.
Right.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Look, it's a known fact that most we could in a quick Google search pull up the data. Most homosexual men were abused when they were young,
right,
by a man.
You can see some of this stuff going on. Did you see all the information about Disney employees who were being charged with child like predator behavior, child pornography, stuff like that? So there is this stuff going on, and it's in this community. But to draw this line of comparison where Jesus is welcoming the little children to him because he loves them, and he blesses them, to these kindergarten and elementary school teachers who are having the kids march around their school in a mock gay pride parade, is super offensive.
Right.
Like, Jesus did not welcome the little kids so he could teach them about sex.
So here's, I think, one thing that these people need to understand about when Jesus came into the world and who's the minority in this culture. Because they say Jesus is on the part of the marginalized. Jesus is on the side of the marginalized, and those in power are those he speaks against. The people that are in power in this nation are the LGBTQ community.
Right.
They are the supreme power. They've captured the mind and the heart of America. They're trying to influence children and push their agendas. If Jesus were here today, they'd be screaming for his crucifixion.
Right.
Because he would be calling them brood of vipers, evil, abominations. These words, I have no doubt, would come out of his mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, for them to keep pushing this narrative that they're the minority and they're just always being looked down upon, while every media outlet, all Hollywood, any kind of communication is all pushing this agenda. It's ridiculous. Like they might be the minority in the population wise, but in terms of influence, they're the 1%, right? They're the ones that hold all the power.
Right.
because they hold all the entertainment and information, and they've got the government officials, on their side, and they're the ones that have the power. So that this whole narrative is pretty ridiculous.
Right.
But they're not seeing that they're being called groomers not because they love children, but because they want to teach children about sex when they're like 5 years old.
Yeah.
Like that's that, and they just don't get it because they're so given over to their sexual desires and their lust that they can't help but talk about it.
Right.
They can't help but push it on kids.
Uh-huh.
And it's to try to draw a comparison between that and Jesus is just the height of wickedness. I really wanted
What's interesting too is how Jesus is always presented as a person who only hung out with prostitutes. Like he hung out with prostitutes and drunks.
Yeah.
Well, that's not all he hung out with.
And he didn't hang out with them so that they would stay
Right.
the same. Like why would the prostitutes and the tax collectors have wanted to hang out with Jesus?
Right.
Because he's just you do you. You just be your true self, and love is love. That's not what Jesus was teaching. They come to him and they hang out with him because he loves them and he forgives them of their sins. They repent and
they're transformed.
they're transformed.
And
Yeah.
they find a new life.
Yeah.
The tax collector, his disciple's a tax collector. Do you really think that his disciple continued to be a defrauder
Right.
of his own people?
Right.
The tax collector came to Jesus and was transformed.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
I mean, it's so like I said, tell me you don't understand the Bible without telling me you don't understand the Bible.
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect example.
But the message of the gospel is not just love. It's not Jesus wasn't crucified because he hung out with the marginalized. He was crucified because this was God's plan to reconcile sinners to himself by the atoning death of Christ.
Right.
And that's not talked about by these people because it's offensive to them. They are driven away by the true message of the cross. It's foolishness to them.
Yeah.
Because they think that Jesus came into the world just to accept everyone as they were, and the leaders didn't like that, and so these oppressive people they oppress Jesus.
Right.
It's liberation theology.
Yeah.
It's not true biblical Christianity. It's not the atonement. It's liberation theology. It's just
I don't. Again, I'm wondering if they have like different books that they have that read that maybe we haven't read before. Like, how could Jesus be accused of being a socialist? Like I feel like I've studied his books that we have in the Bible like pretty decently.
Yeah.
I never would have come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Like where do they even grab this stuff from? Where do they get it
I
from?
guess anytime you say give to the poor, or be generous with your money, means that you're a socialist. It means give your money to the government so that they can equally distribute it. Like that's nowhere in.
Yeah.
Jesus told them to pay their taxes.
Right.
I don't know. I really wanted to push your limits of to see if you would be able to sit through this prayer, but
you can't find it. You can't. Bring it up.
So Duke Divinity School, they have a new, I guess it's like a campus club. It's called Divinity Pride, and I can imagine you know what that is, Jay. They had their first. If you turn over to my screen, you can see their page. So they had their first service of the Word with Divinity Pride. It was, and they had this service. And look here, it says Duke Divinity School will hold a service of Word with reflections from the Divinity Pride community. This service is in collaboration with Divinity Pride. The service can be viewed on YouTube. All are welcome. Let's click on this real quick.
Oh, I took it down.
I watched this. When did I send this to you, Jay? Monday?
Yeah.
I watched some of this on Monday, and now the video is
gone.
private.
It's
It's gone. So apparently something happened that made them
Take it down.
take it down.
Well,
But I was going to show it to you because the service starts with this lady giving this prayer that is just atrocious.
Yeah.
It is absolutely atrocious. And she calls God the Holy and Queer One. She says that, I love this. We want to affirm everyone to be who they truly are, to step into the Holy One's fire that burns away all that says we are not good enough and refines us by the Pentecostal fire to be who exactly the great Queer One calls us to be.
It's pretty wild, man. Sounds like Isaiah 6.
You know, anytime the fire of God burns anything away, you don't want to be you don't want to be that person.
You don't want to be there.
You don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. Yeah.
This looked like, before they took it down, well, what I saw, it literally looked like a pagan ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Almost, you know what I mean? Like the people were, we have, responsive prayers. That's part of like Christianity or whatever, but they're praying these responsive prayers to this queer one.
Yeah.
Like it's legit.
Oh yeah, there was like responsive
yeah,
reading. Yeah.
It's like if you ever wondered what did pagan worship look like in ancient Rome or in the Greek world, where people would come into a temple and they would celebrate their sexuality, which is what they're doing.
Uh-huh.
They'd celebrate their sexuality with one another, and they would find that the God was pleased with that, and they were engaged in paganism. Look no further than Duke Divinity School.
Yeah. Listen to this.
There you have
this
it.
was part of their responsive reading. So the people that were in the congregation, they responded with strange one, fabulous one, fluid and ever becoming one. Do not allow us to make our ideas of you into an idol.
Fluid and ever becoming one.
And then at the end, you are mother, father, and parent. You are sister, brother, and sibling. You are drag queen and trans man and gender fluid, incapable of limiting your vast expressions of beauty. Like, who are they praying to, Jay?
So what you
Who are they praying to?
well, they're
'Cause
praying.
they're not praying to
They're praying-
the triune God.
They're praying to a demon. They've
Right.
been deceived by a demon.
Yeah.
There's
Do you
there's
think
panentheism is in that prayer, that
Uh-huh.
God is all of these things. He's
Right.
the trans man. He's this, that. Like they are affirming. I'm sure if you were to dig down it deep into it, that there is an element of God in all of us,
Mhm.
and what we need to do is to unlearn the things that keep us from our true selves.
Yeah.
And that our true selves is where we are in touch with the God within all of us.
Right.
I guarantee you, if they sat down and talked to them, because that's what kind of comes out that last section, but also the ever becoming fluid one demonstrates some type of a commitment to some type of process theology.
Yeah.
That God is in process,
right?
that He is ever changing.
Yeah, he's gender fluid.
He's
Like he's just always changing into different things, and
Yes.
so we can too.
Ever learning, ever changing, ever growing, and we're kind of in this deal with Him. So, no objective truths.
Yeah.
God, the God of the Bible never changes.
Mhm.
He's perfect.
Right.
He can't get better, because if He were to get better, that would mean He's not perfect. He can't get worse, because that would be change and He'd be imperfect. So He's been eternally perfect in all of His attributes. So His attributes sometimes are called His perfections, rightly
Right.
so. And He's always been perfect since before the creation of the world. He doesn't change. He doesn't learn. He doesn't know. He simply is good and holy. And the grounding of all objective truth is God's being, right? So we believe in objective truth because it's grounded in God's being. Now, if you believe God's ever-changing and fluid, obviously you can believe in anything, which is what's occurred at Duke Divinity School.
Right. The lines that stuck out to me were, "Do not allow us to make our ideas of you into an idol." Even though they're turning their ideas into an idol, they're worshiping a false god because they're projecting all of these things onto Him, and then you're incapable of limiting your vast expressions of beauty. And I think that what they've done is that they don't want God to have the freedom to say, "This is how you approach me."
Well, God has revealed the vast. He's revealed His vast beauty.
Right.
The problem is they don't like it.
Yeah. Well, they don't want to be limited. They don't want to limit their worship of God to a God as a father, even though that's how God has revealed himself. They think that the writers of the scriptures are limiting who God is.
You can't,
and they're trying to make it unlimited by calling him mother, father, parent, sibling, drag queen, trans man. Like they're just trying to encompass all this stuff, and they're trying to make God us. Like, God is not a man. He's not like us. He is transcendent, and he's also sovereign. He is the one who is, he's the only one who can say, this is who I am. This is how you approach me.
Well, this is the way anyone does, right? Okay, so let's think about it from the human perspective, and then we'll try to apply this to how we are how we know about God and how we are to think about God. These individuals, these ones who they would identify as the queer ones, that's like we're the, that this is the weird ways they describe themselves. Duke Divinity Pride people, they would be incredibly offended if you were to be in a room with them and you were to tell them, this is who you are. Mm-hmm. Right? No, don't talk. Here's who I observe you to be. And you were to tell them all of these things. They'd be like, you can't define who I am.
Right.
I define who I am for myself. I tell you who I am, and then you then listen to what I say,
right,
and you believe it. And don't impose upon me something that I am not. That's violence.
Right.
You're doing violence to me just in your thoughts and
right,
in your speech. They won't extend the same right to God.
Right.
Right. God is a person. And in many ways, we can't even observe. Like you can get in a room, and if you're a hyper-observant person, you can actually know a lot about by a person by just observing them, right? How do they look? How do they interact with other people? Like from your perspective, you're gathering information because I can observe you. Mm-hmm. Well, God's timeless, and He's timeless, immortal. He's a spirit. If you even try to observe God, in your fallenness and in your sin, will come to wrong conclusions about him. So what does God do? Because he's loving and good God. Yeah. He says, the best thing that could ever happen to a person in this world is that they would know me. That's the best thing that could ever happen to them. So I'll give them that because I'm a gracious and good God. So he tells you exactly who he is. He says, I'm going to make this easy for you. I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm going to tell you how good I am, how gracious, how merciful, and you can come into relationship with me. And they say, no,
right.
That's not who you are.
Yeah.
You're who I say you are. Do you see the folly? Do you see the arrogance? The wickedness.
It goes back to Genesis chapter 3. You will become like God, knowing good and evil. You will be the one who is sovereign. You'll be the one who has the final say. And that's what they've done. They're putting themselves in the place of God.
I mean, it's so preposterous. It's the blindness that's over their eyes, because they would absolutely melt down and lose their mind if you were ever to tell them, "No, this is who you are."
Right.
And they won't extend to God the same right.
Yeah.
This is a display of human evil and wickedness, which, I mean, we often think of human evil and wickedness playing out on a horizontal plane because it's what's most stark. When humans suffer, when make other people suffer, and we say, "What a great evil." Mm-hmm. That what we ought to think and what we ought to do is not to look at this and go, "Oh, hey, whatever." We had to look at this and say, "What a grotesque evil." Mankind attempting to do violence to God's character, which it's futile. You can't.
Right.
You can't do anything to him. But still the attempt is a tremendous grotesque evil, to try to impose upon God something that he is not.
Mm-hmm. So we were talking about this before we started recording. You and I both believe in a final man of lawlessness, an antichrist.
Right.
Do you think that when he shows up, he's going to be dressed like Elton John?
Where does that come from? Where does this coming out of left field?
Like this super like gay guy. Do you think he's gonna be like, we can be gender fluid and just whatever we want to be? Do you think that might be?
I think, yeah, I mean, who knows? I think that the spirit that is behind all of this gets down to the core of man creating our own reality.
Mm-hmm.
How it all plays out when the man of lawlessness appears, because this man of lawlessness.
I mean, I'm being tongue in cheek here, Jay. I mean, you've seen Elton John and like his big boa and the big
Right,
like the bedazzled, glasses.
Yeah, no,
and stuff.
I don't.
Like
I don't.
But like super flamboyant.
I don't think it'll be so obvious like that. Maybe.
I'm not trying to get into like a deep.
I mean, honestly,
deep discussion here.
He will. You're trying. Yeah, I know what you're doing, but he may appear as someone like. This is why you should be tactful or wise, like Zelensky,
right?
Who is super pro.
Everything
under the sun.
Right.
He before he became a hero of freedom.
Yeah.
Which there's much to be commended about his bravery, and the way he is trying to stand for his people and against the evils. I mean, people, that's evil. What's going on over there? There's no way around it. War crimes, evil stuff. But let's not make him something he's not.
Yeah.
He's an evil man too.
Mm-hmm.
He's opposed to.
He is pro everything that we should be against.
Yeah. They even censor their own people, from what I understand, before this happened. So, yeah, that's the way that he will appear, though, as a hero of mankind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
We got off track. The Elton John thing threw me for a loop.
Obviously.
Hey, I'm not saying it's impossible, man. I mean, the rate things are going nowadays.
Right.
The rate things are going at now.
Mm-hmm.
It may be illegal to be like a straight person.
Yeah.
Think of that dystopia.
That is.
We only grow our humans via AI. We grow them in human growing pods, and it's now illegal to be a straight person and to try to have a child a normal way.
Yeah.
That's not an impossibility.
Right.
What do you think?
See, that's the novel you could write, Jack.
I guess I could.
That's kind of bringing in Brave New World and 1984 together. There's some of that going on in both of those.
So anything, it would be like the reverse world, or the upside down world, where anything God has said is good is outlawed, including having children. It could happen. I mean, we're on the trajectory. I mean, like, we're on there, dude. Who would have ever thought we'd be having these type of conversations about divinity school even 5 years ago? Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody, man. So.
Demon deacons, man. I've known a few of those in my life.
Do we even have time to talk about this last piece?
Sure, why not?
I don't know that we really do have a.
I mean, it's up to you, man.
Yeah, let's hold off till next time.
Okay.
Because it will take longer.
Yeah.
Longer to talk about. So let's do that.
Okay.
I think that's it, George.
You got anything else? You got anything else that you've got hidden away?
I'll just tell people, bat flips get fat lips. All right? Take that with you on your way out. All right?
Was that your final word of wisdom?
That's word of wisdom that I imparted to my kid.
Yeah?
That's what we say in our house. Bat flips get fat lips.
Okay.
So Drake doesn't pimp out his home runs.
Okay.
He just hits them and gets around the bases. If he starts making money to play baseball, then he can start flipping bats. Until then, it's old school in my house.
Okay.
That's not from Ecclesiastes. You may have thought that it is because I've been studying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vanity of vanities.
Bat flips get fat lips.
Bat flips are vanity.
Yeah. A man may hit 700 home runs, George, but in the end, it's all vanity.
It's all vanity.
And it's simply a chasing after the wind.
You know, sometimes the sermons just write themselves, Jay.
I know. All right, let me shut this thing down. All right?
Okay. All right.
Thanks for joining us today for the Conformed to Christ podcast, Free for All Friday. We just like to have a good time on Free for All Friday. You know, hopefully that's why you come. Have a good time on your drive or wherever you're going, and to learn a little bit more about God and to try to shape the way that we think. I think this is the idea: is we want to take the Bible and have that affect our minds, and then that will affect our heart, and then we will follow Christ better. It'll impact how we think about things and how we live in the world. So hopefully this has been beneficial. If it has, please like, subscribe, share, pass it along to your friends, maybe write us a review. And as always, it's our hope this has helped you to become more conformed to Christ. See you next time.